You mentioned AJ Brown. That's where I'm going next. And, AJ Brown did his usual cryptic tweet this week. Goes back to the Denny Carter receiver tweet. AJ Brown's always good for one of those every month, it seems. The spiral for AJ Brown right now is as much his fault as the play calling. That's my takeaway through the first month of the season. And to be clear, this is going to be greatly aided by Matt Harmon because it's very tough, um, especially when we're watching these games on the broadcast angle, not the all 22. It's tough for us to know, like, okay, does this guy still look the same? Does he still have it? We just see he's not getting the ball. Um, it's been rough for AJ Brown just in isolation this year. And like, this dude is wide receiver 50. Like, wide receiver 50. Like, by the way, T. Higgins, a couple spots below him, kind of broke my heart a little bit. Shout out Jake Browning. He has 2 games, AJ Brown, with fewer than 2 points. Like this is a guy who's been arguably the best receiver in the NFL for the last 4 years. Week 3, he had 19.9 points. Took until the second half for him to have any involvement, and then he had a lot of involvement. And he brought him back to the game, so he did produce in that. And I do kind of wonder what some of his charting would look like if Harmon charted that game. But I don't know. Like, the thing with the Eagles, and all of us, including me, are guilty of this to some extent. The Eagles just don't want to pass unless they have to. I think that's somewhat true, but I also think they probably would prefer to win these games by 3 scores instead of 1 score. They don't want to be the 2024 Chiefs squeaking out every game by 3 points at the very end. And these teams are entering these games against the Eagles now and saying, we're going to stack the box. We're going to take away Saquon Barkley, and we're going to see what you got. And as a result, Saquon's averaging 3.1 yards per carry this season. That's a career low if you take away the year he played 2 games and got hurt immediately. He was averaging like 1.9 yards per carry in the 6 quarters he played that year. Like, he was 5.8 yards per carry last year. And to my eye, he looks like the exact same guy as he did last year. The Eagles have the lowest dropback percentage in the NFL on first down this year. On those first down runs, among 42 qualifying running backs, Saquon Barkley is 40th with 2.6 yards per carry, 34th with a 50% stacked box rate, 28th with a 30% success rate, and 39th with a 32% rate that he's failed to gain yards, basically a 32% stuff rate. You would think AJ Brown would be able to capitalize when teams are playing them this way, even with low volume. Because that, frankly, like, AJ Brown's career has been low volume, but extremely efficient with a great running game as part of the offense. But his reception perception, weeks 1 and weeks 4, first of all, he's lined up on the line 92% of the time. That is insane. There's no way that will continue, but that is insane through 2 games. That, like, just basically a pure X receiver. And specifically a backside X receiver. And what I mean by that is their offensive coordinator pretty much word for word said this. Did you see that quote going around, Dalton?
Mm-mm.
Basically said, like, about AJ not getting the ball. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but was like, like, he's kind of the backside read, and if the play gets back to him, great. But like, if not, like, basically was like, it is what it is. That to me sounds like a guy who, I mentioned this after the first couple weeks. His week 1 reception perception was so bad, like, he has to be hurt. I think he's got to be hurt. He's either hurt or he's washed. He's 28, so I highly, highly doubt he's washed. I feel like he's out there being a decoy because he's such a big name, such a big weapon, and he's being treated as such by his team. Like, he has not been an emphasis at all. And just like, again, in isolation, 45.8 success rate versus man coverage. Harmon prefaced that with saying that's about as bad as it gets for a starting receiver in the NFL. That's AJ Brown through 2 weeks. 58.8% against zone coverage. Last year, the lowest charted among any NFL receiver was 70%. So think about that. He is demonstrably worse. It's only 2 games, but he is way worse through 2 games against zone coverage than the worst guy in the NFL last year. I can't say when it's going to get better. I'm sure at some point it will. I'm sure he will finish much higher than wide receiver 50. But I think until we see it improve just in isolation for him, you just have to adjust expectations for this guy going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I talked a little bit about this last week. Uh, excluding the second half against the Rams, the Eagles have the worst pass rate over expectation in the NFL. In addition to that, like this team has really, and I mean really, just decided they don't want to throw the ball. Devontae Smith is sitting at wide receiver 50. AJ Brown is sitting at wide receiver 54 or 53, and that's with a 16-point blow up game. And I mean, he certainly could be injured, but I don't know how to parse what he did against the Rams in that second half. Like, because that was vintage AJ Brown. He literally threw a corner to the ground and gained 15 more yards on the play.
He was dealing with a hamstring injury in camp, and that's like the only thing that makes sense to me is that he just is not right. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Well, him being the backside read makes absolutely no sense whatsoever for this offense.
It doesn't, but then it does based on like what the reception perception numbers say. And like all of these in breaking routes and out breaking routes and posts where he's always so good. Harmon's like he looks so slow out of all of those breaks.
Well, what I don't know, and I mean, I hate to be that guy, but I mean, is it just an effort thing too? Like,
and that's possible.
Is he really just like, if this team doesn't want to use me? He's like, I know I'm the last read. I know I have a quarterback who's very rarely going to get to the last read, especially with an offensive line and an offense as good as theirs. He's never going to get back to that read. So, like, why go out there and bother doing anything? And then the second half against the Rams, he's like, okay, now I turn it up. But if that's the case, like, I mean, if I asked you, are you starting the wide receiver 53 this week, you would say no in almost all accounts for that.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a point where the conversation is, when do you not start AJ Brown? And it's not like the Eagles play any more tougher games going forward. Like they've gotten through some of the worst part of their schedule, which were us and the Bucks.
Well, I will say this week, who do they have this week? They do have a tough game this week. The Broncos.
Yeah.
I mean, Broncos defense pretty good.
Yeah, but I just feel like the Eagles defense is gonna wash.
Oh yeah, the Eagles will put up, like, if you're thinking about, AJ Brown specifically, and if he just gets, the Pat Surtain treatment, like, what's going to happen?
That will tell us a lot. If Pat Surtain doesn't shadow AJ Brown this game, we're going to know there's something wrong or he is washed. But it's just, this is one of those situations, and I have one of these on my list we'll talk about later too, where it's really hard, because if the team was losing, we would be like, well, things are going to get fixed. The coach will get fired. They're going to change the offensive scheme. But they're winning games. They're not winning them dominantly right now, but they're winning them well enough that I think they feel comfortable with what they're doing. And like, it's not like AJ Brown is running 10 yards downfield wide open and Jalen Hurts is throwing a check down. It's well, AJ Brown is blanketed and he's either not trying, he's not healthy, or he sucks now.
And see, that's what's more concerning to me. Like, if he just wasn't putting up numbers, but you got the like reception perception and like the average separation score and the open, if like he was killing it in all of that stuff, it'd be like, okay, he'll be fine. I'm sure it'll get better, but just the fact that we are where we are right now, I am a lot more nervous about AJ Brown after a month than I ever would have thought a month ago.
Yeah, and this is squeaky wheel week. Like, this is the time where this would be one of my last shots to really feel confident starting him. Like, he's told the team how he feels, and now it's their time to actually give him the ball. And if he doesn't get the ball, then something is very wrong.
If you somehow have a decent record with AJ Brown on your team, which I get difficult, but if you do, like, I would not be opposed to seeing if I could take that squeaky wheel narrative and getting Rashee Rice a couple weeks away from returning and then something else. You know what I mean? Like, I would not be opposed, because then it's like, okay, I wanted to bench AJ Brown. Now I just don't have that spot for 2 weeks. And then I get Rashee Rice, who I personally feel a lot better about. Will he be better than AJ Brown? We'll see. I'm a lot more confident he's going to be wide receiver 15 than I am AJ Brown's going to be at this point, though.
Yeah, AJ Brown is early season contender for roster clogger, which is a wild thing to say for a second round pick.